Welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast with Tony Stabile.
There's a rowdy crowd today.
Hey now everybody, welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast here on rowdywrestling.net. I am your host, Tony Stabile. I'm a grateful man, and I'll run it down really quick. I'm a grateful man for pro wrestling. I'm a grateful man for the weekend I had at Heavy Montreal. Got to see Alter Bridge. Holy crap, that was awesome. I'm not going to sing anything, but you can go over to my Instagram, cheap plug, and hear myself, Mark Mercer, and Stu Corvus go ahead and sing along with that fantastic show. I'm grateful for the fun times that we had at Heavy Mania. A little bit of rain on Sunday, but that didn't stop anybody as the fun times continued going on once it dried up a little bit. The boys were awesome. The wrestling was just phenomenal. And I'm damn sure we walked away, or I should say they walked away. I had nothing to do with it. They walked away making a bunch of new pro wrestling fans, as they should. I'm looking at you, guy, from the t-shirt stand. You got the card. You're going to listen to the podcast. You're going to love it. You're going to buy a ticket and show up at IWS next week, as we talked. Yeah, talking to you, buddy. I don't remember your name. I'm sorry. Also, I'm very thankful for the following. Huge announcement, everybody. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to try not to yell. Heelsandfaces.com, proud sponsor of the show. My good brothers have designed the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast t-shirt. That is right, everybody. You want to support the show? You want to wear it on your sleeve? Don't just wear it on your sleeve. Wear it on your chest. The world's most gorgeous pro wrestling inspired t-shirt. I guarantee it to be the world's most awesome podcast t-shirt you will ever find anywhere. Heelsandfaces.com, proud supporters of the show. They've got it all out there for you. You've got the Speedball Mike Bailey shirt. You've got the IWS shirts. You've got the Shane Hawk t-shirt. Guys, you got 4 shirts there. You got a C note. Go pick them up. Your whole wardrobe will be redone, and you will be looking stylish. All thanks to the good brothers over at heelsandfaces.com. Follow them on Twitter and Instagram at heelsandfaces. They're always showing off the latest trends. They're always showing off the latest shirts and apparel that you can pick up. It just looks so smooth. I see you in the streets wearing those. I'm kind of with the too sweet, and we're going to do it right in the middle of the street, right there in front of everybody. They're going to wonder what's going on. They're going to go pick up a t-shirt just to be as cool as you and I. The Rowdy Wrestling Podcast t-shirt. Pick it up. Love it. On today's show, as I mentioned, we have Speedball Mike Bailey, the man himself. Now, I know I mentioned, I believe on last week's show, that I was going to split this guy, this thing up. Go ahead and make you have to wait an entire week to hear the entire interview. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not. You're going to hear the entire thing today. Shout out to Drew Onyx, who told me he likes long podcasts, plays those during long car rides. You got it. Near 2-hour extravaganza with our boy Speedball Mike Bailey. We talk about going to Japan, his origins, examining pro wrestling moves and guys as a youngster, throwing kicks like Spanky. We talk about Sean Connery. That's right. I remember his name, just not during the podcast. Moonraker, a whole bunch of things. This podcast is tangent heavy. We digress and have so many great side conversations. Speedball Mike Bailey, Mike I've known him for probably over a decade now. His brother is a great friend of mine. It was great to finally have him on the podcast. A fantastic conversation. I'm very proud to share it with all of you. And I'm not going to take too much more of your time, as I mentioned, we nearly hit the 2-hour mark on that one. So go ahead, sit back, put your feet up, pop in a cold beverage, or maybe a tea in honor of Bailey. Go ahead, do it. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to say it one more time, the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast t-shirt, heelsandfaces.com. Go pick it up. Support my good brothers, support the podcast, but most importantly, support local indie pro wrestling. Buy yourselves a ticket. There's a whole bunch of events coming up. You have IWS this coming weekend. You have MWF Charity Blast, and then after that, the season's almost starts. So I can guarantee you every single every single weekend, you're either going to have a CRW show, an NCW show, a Torture Chamber show, an MWF show, an IWS show, just pro wrestling everywhere. Go support it. Have some fun. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy my conversation with Speedball, Mike Bailey.
Conversations happen in a car.
They do.
It's really, when you're wrestling, like driving to places and stuff.
Yeah, well, I missed out on a good road trip recently. I was supposed to go to Wolf River.
Wolf River?
River?
Oh, yeah.
I was supposed
Really?
to go there.
Is there an English name for it? You call it Wolf River?
Wolf River, Three Rivers,
Wow, I never hear that.
Two Mountains.
Yeah, Two Mountains is mostly Two Mountains. I think
Yeah,
more
that's
so.
That's
than
where I
the
grew
whole
up.
thing. Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
So, no, it's you've hung around with Phantom. Hasn't Phantom shown you everything anglicized yet?
Well, no, only Two Mountains. I don't think I've ever talked about either Wolf River or Three Rivers with the Green Phantom.
Oh my God! Like he's back in the day. What was his name? Was it Goulet? Yeah, Steve Goulet.
Steve Goulet.
Yeah, he'd walk up to this guy whose name was Steve Goulet, and he'd just be like, "What's up, Goulet?"
Goulet. Okay. Yeah,
Goulet,
that makes sense.
and he just anglicized as many names as he could.
I feel like TDT are very good with doing the opposite and like just francisizing names. Like he gets called Le Fantôme Vert more often now. I think I call him the Fantôme Vert too.
Yeah, I get that one. I've heard that one a lot.
Yeah.
All right, for anybody who doesn't recognize a sultry voice,
Sultry.
sultry, yes. Speedball, Mike Bailey, how
Never
you
been
doing?
described as that. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad I can describe you something new.
All right.
That should be your new ring entrance, the sultry.
The sultry voice. I don't want to be described as the voice anything.
No, not the voice,
No.
because that's been taken.
Yeah. C4 announcer, the voice. Shout out.
Yeah, look at that. Besides that, man, I've been wanting to have you on the podcast practically since day one.
Yeah. You asked me like when you started, right? Like probably
Last
would've
year.
been your last year, was it?
Yeah.
Oh damn, that's right.
You were one of the first people I reached out to, but you were heading off to Mexico.
That's right.
I started the podcast and I really started hanging back out with your brother for a while.
Yeah.
Where we hadn't seen each other in years almost, and then it was like night and day almost every weekend I was with him, and you were gone. You had ran away to Mexico.
Right. That's what I do though. I run away. But no, that's what happens with most podcasts. I like to do as many podcasts as possible, like even if it's like requests. I get weird emails like in bad English from some guy in Argentina who wants me to Skype with him for an hour. I have no problem doing that. But he kind of has to remind me often. Because, like, he'll send me an email like, so are you free this Wednesday? And I'm like, do I have anything Wednesday? And I sort of close my email and look, and I just never get back to him. So that's what happens, honestly, probably, like, most of the time. They send me a message, and I'm like, oh, I got to look into that. And then I never reply. The lucky ones are the ones who, like, hit me back up often, and then I do it. Because I like to do it. I like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like the...
Well, I think with
I like
you,
the sound of my own voice. I
You
guess
do?
is the main thing. My own
You're-
sultry voice.
you're one of the few people who, unless you're totally working me, you're one of the few people who likes to hear their voice that come on the podcast.
Yeah. No, actually, I don't. Because most of the time, obviously, it's in English, and I get mad at my accent. Because of course you always sound different on recorder, and I actually hate it. I rarely listen back. Barely ever listen back, but I like doing them. I just think it's fun. I think it's practice. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I think this is an art form, you know what I mean? Like there's something to what I'm doing right now and just going on not a rant, but a tangent and trying to sound interesting. There's something to that. Instead of just answering the questions, like that's essentially like the only way you can be bad at podcasts is by only going yes, no, or like giving your answers factually, which then gets stuff kind of boring. You sort of have to go on a tangent and talk about nothing for, well, not as long as you can, because if not, you just sound like Grandpa Simpson talking about tying an onion around his belt, and then the whole podcast goes nowhere. But at least giving a comprehensive answer with some content.
10 points to the Abe Simpson reference there. you managed to slide that one right in.
If you want to make it a point system for Simpsons references, this podcast will be full of them.
All right. Well, let's do it. We're going to have a little timer going every time.
I'm going to have to think about that too, so that's some next level stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then I do want to start off for me about Mexico, because
Yeah.
that's one thing I have yet to speak to anybody who's had tangible time there.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
2 long months.
2 long months.
2 months, yep.
You got a little homesick during that time?
I did. I got very homesick, But regrettably, I think I should have. I should have been more outgoing there, and I sort of, I got over it like kind of quickly, but the like getting there was rough. Because when I first got there, I had like a full 3-day tour,
Okay.
and then I had nothing for 2 weeks, and my living arrangements were kind of off, right? So they had wanted me to stay with a guy who they thought had an apartment, I guess, or I hope, or maybe they was just like speaking out of their ass, which is possible. But yeah, they wanted me to stay with this. Yeah,
It is very possible.
very possible. But the guy didn't have an apartment. He essentially rented a room with his wife and son in a house that rented out rooms. So they didn't have any rooms available. So I sort of stayed on the living room there with 30 other people from Mexico. The lion's share of which were pilots who woke up at 6, because it was by the airport. So mostly pilots who woke up at 6 a.m. to go on their flights, and students who studied until 2 a.m. So obviously I was just there, and I didn't get any bookings for 2 weeks after that. And then I started back up again regularly, and then I lived in a nice apartment with Angelico and Australian Suicide, or both of it. But those first 2 weeks were just terrible, where I literally had, like, I went to wrestling training, and then I went to the gym, and I just had nothing to do the rest of my days, except just Facebook message with people back home, mostly my girlfriend, and watch movies on the couch, but that was that. And listen to Law and Order in Spanish, which the old lady who the house belonged to, Lola, would watch all day, every day.
Was it Special Victims Unit, where it was all about rape, or was it the Good Law and Order, where they had a rotation of crimes?
At this point, my Spanish was not good enough to make it out.
All right, so then take me through the steps of how you got there, because I, naturally heard through your brother and heard through some of the boys, like what exactly had happened for you to end up in Mexico.
Yeah, well, Conan had saw me at Battle of Los Angeles for PWG in Los Angeles, naturally.
Well, I heard I heard they actually do it out in Oakland now. No, I'm joking.
Well, it's in Reseda, to be honest, which I have no idea if it's technically LA.
I've always wondered that.
I don't know, cause the West Island is technically Montreal. I don't know if it's that kind of thing.
I guess to the outsiders, because I was watching this YouTube video a couple of weeks ago. People from Toronto were like, "Oh, we're going to Old Montreal. We're going to Old Montreal." Old Montreal is like 3 blocks of the island.
Yeah.
And so when people continuously say, "Oh, we spent time in Old Montreal, Montreal," when you live here, you're right. For us, it's like, no, it doesn't really need to be separated. I guess over there, Reseda, they just see it as an extension.
Probably. That's probably it. It's, I don't know. It's LA sounds cooler than Reseda, I guess. Still California, but Reseda doesn't have any cool abbreviation like LA.
So you can just say you're at the RIS or the DUH. I don't know. But anyway, so Conan saw you at PWG?
Yeah, and he just, we emailed back and forth, and he told me, hey, you should come down to AAA for a while. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I did zero negotiation. I just agreed to whatever he said. I was like, cool, Mexico. And then off I was for 2 months.
That's the best way to do it. Just don't think about it and go.
Yeah, that's regretfully what I do way too much, is just say yes to offers. Like podcasts.
Now, I've emailed with Conan before.
Oh, really?
Have you noticed he types exactly how he talks?
Oh, yeah, K-Dog, yeah.
Exactly. It's one step away from being all in caps.
Yep.
And it's the best thing ever. Because when I got the this was a couple of years ago, and he's talking about a guy, and I was sure he was holding back from putting on caps because he has some sort of etiquette on the computer. Because it's Conan, But
he does have his podcast, and he's very active on Twitter. He has a good Twitter, so he must be somewhat technology savvy, right? Well, he has to at least know his way around a computer.
Yeah, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I'm pretty sure his texts are if he's smart, he has that voice to text app.
Yeah.
Where you just yell into your phone and it's going to go off into the ether.
Yeah.
That would be the best.
That would be pretty great.
That would be easy for me. I think I might start doing that.
I've never gotten any kind of voice to text function on anything to work.
No?
In any kind. No. It always just gets it dead wrong.
I recently enabled the ability to put the podcasts on YouTube, so I don't have to. I'm not that technological.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not. I'll admit
Right.
it. It looks like it with this.
Yeah.
But I'm so far from technological, and I just got this email. It's like, oh, here, your subscription service, blah, 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 blah. You can put it on YouTube now with one simple click. I'm like, great, I'll do that. And then I was like, so let me see what like the backside of it is. And so I go to the YouTube where like the videos get uploaded,
Right.
and then there's a section where it goes closed captioning. I go, what do you mean closed captioning? And it's the most hilarious thing as it's
Yeah.
going. Like my words are coming up on the screen, and I'd say 80% accurate. And then
80%,
sometimes
and then there's
like
one with
Rashida would probably come out as like Rashida Jones.
Yeah. The one thing that YouTube closed captioning is terrible with is when people go like, I don't like something, and then it'll just like make one word that'll start with an O. Like it'll assume everything is Irish just because the person goes when they're talking. It's just terrible. It never works. I've done it with like Japanese videos, and it tried to sort of like, it tried to translate the Japanese to English, and it just made a mess, like just nonsense. Kind of like what do you call those? Mad Lib. It sounded like it looked like Mad Lib.
Somebody put in a bit of
Yep.
adjectives and verbs.
Yep.
Oh. Open the fart.
Exactly.
Open the fart. So then let's really talk about it. Do you remember meeting me? I think back in like 2003 or 4. You had just finished training. Because I knew your brother at that time.
Yeah.
Through IWS, and you had, I forget who your match was against. It could have been Hyena, if you remember him.
Yeah, I remember Hyena very well.
At FLQ.
Yep.
And you came, like, you finished your match. You came up to me. He was like, "What'd you guys think of it?" And it was like maybe your 4th or 5th. And we're like, "Yeah, it was great." And you're like, "I threw a whole bunch of spanky kicks." And I thought,
Spanky kicks?
yeah.
What are spanky kicks?
I guess roundhouse, like, or like spinning, like, I don't know, but I remember you saying that, and me going like, "Oh my god, the guys who, besides Felix, there are people who pay attention to the like how people wrestle," and that was the first time I was really introduced to somebody critically examining someone through you saying one sentence.
What? I have now all I'm thinking is I'm gonna have to go back and look at, like, if it was 2003, this must have been like early Ring of Honor Spanky. Right?
2003, no, 2003. He was already trying to get on WWE.
Really?
Yeah, he did the gimmick where he'd come out every week in a mask. It'd be the
Well,
Pittsburgh Penguin
what-
or the such and such.
Oh God.
And he was trying to fight for his. Oh, everyone
Um,
has. Everyone has.
Yeah, I remember
but-
Biff Busick being a Carolina Panther, but that's completely besides the point. And now I really have to go back and find out what
Oh.
spanky kicks are. Like, he may have done like maybe some like a hopping outside crescent kick. That's the only kick I remember with him. That or Dr. Smooth's secret recipe, which is where he jumps like a drop kick on the guy leaning on the buckle, then backflips,
Yeah.
which I don't think I did in the match.
No, that I would have remembered you doing.
Yeah.
That I would have remembered you. But this was all the way back then. You had semi-long hair.
Yeah, semi-long hair. I wrestled in my Taekwondo pants with that pair of white and blue boxing boots I bought from Jean Sport.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, Jean Sport.
Oh man, that's a while ago. That's forever ago.
Oh God.
I think that was the same show. Firestorm lit a baguette on
Wait,
fire.
but there's no way that was 2003.
It could have been 2004.
Much later than that.
No, because I was still in high school. I graduated in 2006. So the latest it could have been was 2006.
I started wrestling in 2006.
So then it was then. It was
Yeah.
my last year of high school.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
I started for FLQ in January 2006.
Okay. Then yeah.
And I'd done some matches at MWF before, but that was like where
I don't think it was
started, so-
MWF though.
Yeah, no, Hyena
I-
never did MWF.
Yeah, no.
No. I feel like we should talk about Hyena. I like it's funny. I've like throughout the years I've gained so much respect for those guys who wrestle like at FLQ every week. And especially him because it like he tried very hard. He tried to do different things. Like I remember this one time he had this idea where there would be at intermission there would be a hockey bag placed in the ring. And as soon as the show started, like one guy would make his entrance, and then the hockey bag would just open, and he was in it the whole time,
So he would just chill in the hockey bag during intermission.
which was completely pointless. But it was better than all the people who were there and sort of didn't want to be there, which was kind of the vibe at FLQ for that time. There was like half of the roster were like people just trying and having fun with wrestling and, just trying to do something, and the other half were just old dudes who didn't want to be there but were, because I guess I don't know why. I've never been able to figure that out, why these people showed up every week, but they did.
Yeah.
And complain they also did.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think you find that in a couple of in a couple of promotions when you're the area you're in has more promotions than the average, you're gonna end up with a couple places like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of rotates a little bit.
Right.
Like, I haven't been back there, and does FLQ still run? They're extremely out most of the time now.
Yeah, they're under that umbrella, and it's completely changed. But like, wrestling as a whole has completely changed, because at least now, for the most part, people receive some kind of compensation for wrestling shows. I mean, most promotions, like, it's usually minimal, but I think, like, the lion's share of people who show up to wrestle somewhere usually end up receiving some kind of compensation, because now people actually show up to the shows where they didn't back then, because there was no way to advertise aside from posting flyers on telephone poles that got ripped off very quickly.
Yeah.
That was the only way to advertise for shows before Facebook.
Yeah, no, now the internet has made it a lot easier. You can get your core, you can at least get your core group of 50 people who are going to show up regardless.
That same CRW group of 70, that base CRW group of 75 who will show up to whatever show you put on if they find out about it through the internet, which is great. Bless them, because they're keeping, part of that Montreal wrestling scene alive.
Well, it's an important part. Thankfully, the internet has, been able to do it.
Right.
Because I can only imagine doing like a spot show nowadays without any advertising besides putting a flyer in in a wall.
Right. Which I guess was, like, back then the strategy was to go to a town small enough that people wouldn't have a choice but to know about the show. Like, if there's 160 people in town, then you're probably going to get them all at the show because they have nothing else to do on a Saturday.
We're also of that weird generation now that you and I will probably never open up a telephone book except for finding out how to rip it in two.
Right.
And then once you figure it out, you're going to go through about 2 or 3 telephone books.
Or doing that thing where you're supposed to, like, intertwine all the pages and then you can't pull them apart.
Yeah.
Which I've heard of but never tried, because that seems like way too much of a project. Possibly, though, hide a gun in if I ever need a gun. Because
you're going to go for the no, but now you're telling people, so they're going to go for your telephone book.
Well,
do it in the Bible.
Yeah. No, because people might look at my Bible like...
They'd think it's alcohol. Not necessarily for you, but for most people. Like, there's the flask.
Yeah. I don't know, though. Like, I feel like I'd just get a safe if I really had something I wanted to hide. But a book, it seems cooler. Like, I feel like if I took the time to hide something in a book and, like, make a gun-shaped hole in it, I'd sort of want people to find the gun so I could go like, hey, look what I did to my phone book. I made a nice hole in it so I could hide a gun. That's kind of cool, right? That's kind of hip nowadays.
Hiding guns in phone books?
Yeah.
The kid. Maybe I'm detached from what the cool thing is. I'll be honest. I'm the least cool person you'll ever meet.
Yeah. No. I feel like it's a hip thing, dude. Like, it's not cool. You don't describe cool people. You describe them as hip now.
Is it like that thing from Futurama where Fry went up to the Asian girl and she was wearing like these glow rings and he's like, oh, your rings are so cool. And she goes, oh, no, they're not. They're so not cool. And she had to like yell at him to get him to say they're not cool. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that exact bit, but that was a device they used a lot on Futurama.
Yeah.
Like that time Fry rode a T-Rex and he was having the time of his life and the kid next to him is looking like, why is he having so much fun? It's real basic. They did a lot of that in Futurama.
Well, when you can hit a certain point and know that your demographic is going to find it funny every time.
Yeah.
It's like Family Guy. Their thing is not repetitive jokes, which they will do, but their thing is killing a joke and then making it come back by doing it so often.
Right. Like the chicken.
Yeah.
The whole chicken fights. At least they make an effort to make it more interesting every time.
Well, the cold chicken was essentially, what fight scene are we referencing now?
Yeah. Really? Wait. So I saw a chicken fight, a Peter Griffin vs. chicken fight, a couple days ago. I don't remember the whole theme of the episode. I think maybe Joe was cheating on his wife or something. I probably was half paying attention, but they like went into space, and had a fight there. I think,
I don't remember that one.
but there's no way it could have been based off any movie fight scene.
Moonraker.
Moonraker? What is Moonraker?
James Bond, 007 Moonraker.
Oh, I have not watched.
Roger Moore.
Oh man.
Oh, if you want a campy James Bond movie, if you want one that just is ham and cheese, that is your James Bond movie.
I don't think I've watched any James Bond movie.
Well, then start with that one if ever you get the option. Go with there, because anything with Roger Moore is just it's 1960s Batman.
Is that really a thing worth doing? Like going back and watching old James Bond? Is that something I should do?
If you're because you're clearly not a James Bond fan.
No, but will I,
But
like if I
if-
start from the beginning, will I get into it enough for it to be
No.
campy? Like
No, I can tell you right
no?
now because they kind of treated the stuff with what's his name, the Scottish guy who played him.
Pierce Brosnan.
No.
No?
That was in the 90s.
That was in
The
90s
original.
before.
He played in The Rock.
And Pierce Brosnan
He
probably
played.
isn't Scottish. I have no idea.
He played Harrison Ford's father in Indiana Jones.
I have not seen Indiana Jones either.
Yeah, well, anyways, he was a Scottish dude. Oh man, it's gonna bother me, and we're gonna get yelled at on the internet. But typical.
Was it the guy who said it was? Oh, goddamn.
Mish Money Partner. Like
Yeah.
I can like you know who I'm talking about.
Yes. He said it was okay to slap women.
Yes, I think he did.
Yeah, George.
No. We're not taking out our phones because that defeats the purpose of this whole debate.
Yeah.
But regardless, starting from the beginning, they kind of took the films seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time they got to Roger Moore, I don't know if they gave up
Okay.
or if they were just like, let's have fun with this, and James Bond goes into space.
Okay.
You know?
Well, see,
Uh,
now I'm more interested of seeing the progression from like
Oh, if you're a fan of that, it's
yeah,
worth it.
from like cool '60s guy, and then to absurd, and then sort of back to serious, and then to whatever Daniel Craig is doing now.
Well, what happened was it's honestly a beautiful wave. You start off with that guy. You have Roger Moore. I forget. Was there somebody between him? Anyways, there might have been another guy. Then you had Timothy Dalton for a very short period of time where they tried to make it dark and gritty.
Okay.
And then it failed, so they went back to Pierce Brosnan where it's kind of campy, kind of suave. Oh, look at me. I never really get dirty.
Those are the ones I saw with Pierce Brosnan. Those are the ones I saw like on TV as a kid.
Yeah.
Which I have no memory of at all.
Those
kind of
those are you have to be in the mood for it.
okay.
And then you get to Daniel Craig, and it's essentially the last two have been everything the year 2010 to now has been, which is a callback to better days.
Okay.
You know, where everybody's like, oh, wasn't this awesome in the 90s? Or, oh, wasn't this awesome in the 1980s? Those were, like, at one point, James Bond, I believe in the second to last one, said, oh, the old ways were better.
Oh,
He
wow.
just, like, straight up like that. And I'm
It's
like,
not subtle at all.
yeah, great. Like, that's what you guys are accomplishing right now is a throwback. A 2.5 hour, $100 million throwback.
Yeah. The old ways when you used to hit women, which James Bond did a lot of, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Just like, can you imagine if like it came out now, like with how everyone is attuned to how wrong it is to hit women or be racist or just, well, not killing people for no reason. That's still okay, but I'd like it wouldn't pass now at all.
It wouldn't. And, like, even back to, like, the early 2000s, I was watching The Office because I got my girlfriend addicted to it.
Right. Which version?
The American.
The American.
The British one, I'm waiting for her to, like, get through it entirely. That way the first few episodes will be gone out of her mind.
Okay.
And she can enjoy the British version again.
Right.
And there's one episode, I believe in season 1 or beginning of season 2, where Michael gets in trouble because he called Oscar faggy.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, this is like 2004, 2005, and you could still say that on television?
Yeah.
And they said it like 8 or 9 times. And I'm like,
Wow.
holy crap. And then on like Scrubs, one character calls another character retarded.
Retarded. Okay.
And you're like, wow, this was not even 20 years ago.
It's crazy how fast it's going.
Social justice warriors have taken over.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's not all bad.
No, but I'm of the camp, and this is I know it's very polarizing when I say this.
Yeah.
I'm of the camp that as a society we've gotten very thin-skinned.
Yeah.
And people have to understand that a lot of times characters who say those sorts of things in TV shows are portrayed as the bad example, are portrayed as the numbskull idiot. So if they say it, I'm not saying it's okay that they say it, but I'm saying it's okay that they're the ones saying it and they get the reprimand for it in the show, or they look like the doofuses. In the end, they're the dumbasses, and you don't want to be like them. Like, as awesome as it would be like to be like Dwight Schrute
Yeah.
and own my own beet farm and have a cousin named Mose, I don't want to be that guy. That's kind of weird.
Would be great to own a beet farm. But I think, like, usually the argument is that you shouldn't say certain words because they'll bring up bad feelings to certain people. And I don't know, like, I guess the reason most TV shows don't do it, South Park being the main exception, but is because they don't want to alienate a certain demographic by using a certain word that might be offensive to them. Which, I mean, is probably why The Office would not do it now. You know what I
No,
mean?
it wouldn't. And I agree with you. That's why I refrain from it, because I understand the social constructs behind all
Right.
of this. However, you get with that close group of friends that there is no insulting each other.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it just doesn't happen. You can say what you want, and it's free of
Yeah.
judgment unless you're actually attacking them.
Right. Which
You
is pretty much how it usually goes.
Yeah.
I think I was going somewhere, but I forgot. Completely forgot.
It's a beautiful tangent.
It is.
It has been. But all that to say-
Tangent.
All that to say is, you should at least watch Moonraker.
Okay.
Give it
Yeah.
a try. Give it a try.
But yeah, but the more this conversation has gone on, the more I've wanted to watch the old James Bond films. But I have so many movies to watch.
Oh yeah.
Not enough time to watch them all. No. I started Seinfeld from the beginning recently.
And how's that?
It's been great. It completely holds up. I mean, I'd seen it before, but like just on TV and not in order. And it's still great. It still holds up. It's even funnier now, I think, because it's so 90s. Like just the way they dress and like it's absurd. Like Jerry has his half mullet and it's perfectly fine, and it's a haircut. And when he gets a haircut that's like sort of decent for the times, but not really. Like it still looks kind of geeky, but it's like you'd get made fun of a lot less for having that than a mullet. Well, he gets made fun of. It's crazy, and all the phone humor, all the good old like tape recorder humors, and all the technological stuff is 10 times funnier.
Modern Seinfeld.
Oh yeah,
The best Twitter handle in the world.
Jerry gets iPad.
Elaine switched her relationship status to "it's complicated" and gets berated by the gang. Like, what?
It's great. It's great.
I hated that show when it was airing,
Oh wow.
but
How old are you, Tony?
I'm 27.
Okay. Then how did you see that show when it was airing?
I
You were.
was a wee lad.
Yeah.
I was a wee
Okay,
lad, but
yeah.
I will openly admit I was influenced heavily by my father, who hated the show.
Oh really?
So whenever it came on, it would be like, "Oh, this is garbage." And like the few times where he wasn't around, and I kind of, you almost want to sneak it.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I was too young to understand the
Okay.
true beauty of the nothing
Wow.
humor.
That's some pretty good self-psychoanalysis there, going why you love Seinfeld. Because of hate for your father. But yeah.
Well,
Well, no, because you
No,
were jealous that he was with your mother, which is how everything starts out. but
exactly.
So you like
Oedipus.
you like Seinfeld because of the Oedipus complex.
Yeah,
Essentially.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Eventually, someone's gonna tie my ankles together and throw me into the forest off a cliff.
Hopefully not.
I'm rather large. I only know few men that could do it. Frankie being one of them.
Yeah, he could probably hold you up, but I don't see why he would though. He doesn't have like the motivation.
No, he's too nice.
Unless he's with your mother, which, I mean, there would be a lot. Like you could have a worse stepdad than Frankie.
Far worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I get to hang out with Popo then.
Popo is the best. Popo is Frankie's Pomeranian.
Oh, Popo has made an appearance on the podcast.
As has it?
Yes.
Did he do the thing where he scratches his eyes and he goes like?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
He didn't. But
'cause
now I have
that's
to see that.
Great.
I haven't seen that.
I have it on video on my phone.
You will show me after, please, if you
I
can.
100% I will.
Oh my God. All right, so let's go back to wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
Take me back to your genesis of your fandom. Was it your brother? Was it family? Where did you start watching wrestling? And were you like hooked as a kid, or did you slide into it?
Yeah, no, I remember the exact moment. It was like 97 or 96. I was either 6 or 7. It was Kane trying to set the Brood. You don't remember the Brood? They were the vampires, Edge, Christian, and Gangrel. He was trying to set them on fire. And we were like, wow, this is completely awesome. We're now hooked. You're going to watch us every week. And
What?
yeah. And we didn't really understand it. Like, we had no idea who was who and what was what because we still didn't speak English very well at that point. Like, we had some understanding of it, mostly like our mother translating what was happening, but we didn't really understand. But we just knew it was awesome. And then, like, probably a couple weeks after we started watching it, me and my brother thought it was a good idea to take the mattresses off our beds and just put them on the floor and start giving each other power bombs and whatnot. And yeah, it's been there since. Like, I mean, it's funny, like, people ask, when did you know you wanted to become a wrestler? And it's like, well, I always did. You know what I mean? Just kind of weird. Like, since then, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. The guy trying to set the people on fire, it's going to be me later on. Well, I didn't quite make it to Kane status yet. And Lord only knows if I will. Like, I'd love to have that going for me. Maybe if I was, like, a foot taller, that'd help. But I can still, like, put on the glove and the mask.
You could.
I
You
could.
there's a couple of feds promotions.
I've thought about
you
it.
could
I've
do
thought
it.
about making a full switch to a Kane gimmick and just try to set people on fire.
Well, then you'd have to completely switch your offense.
That's
it would be
fine.
all pyro.
No, I just be Taekwondo Kane, and people would understand.
I could see it.
People would just get it. Speed Kane Mike Bailey or something.
Speed Kane Mike Bailey.
Just make it work. I just have to get a red and black Taekwondo uniform with, like, the old school stripes, one leather glove, and an old school Kane mask, and I'd be set.
Wait, now you'd have to find out which Kane mask though.
Oh, the original.
The OG,
yeah.
that, like, full mask,
Full face.
just a slip here for the mouth.
I may do, like, open mouth, like that second one he got,
Yeah.
just 'cause it's easier to breathe. But I wouldn't do the...
So we got to think of the mechanics behind that.
Yeah, it would be easier to breathe. I think I'd get one with, like, the long hair attached, the long curly wet hair attached in the back.
Permanently wet.
Yeah, permanently wet. But I don't know if you wet it or it just looked that way. Who knows?
Well, it's baby oil. If you have long hair and you have baby oil in it, it looks wet far longer.
Right, but does he wash it? You know what I mean? Like, does he shampoo his mask hair?
I wouldn't know. I'm not, as you can see.
Yeah.
Hair is not necessarily my thing.
Right. I wouldn't know either. I know, like... You know what? Maybe one day I'll get to ask Jushin Liger what he does with his mask hair. Because, you know, he has short hair in real life, but the hair is all that shit. We saw that.
Well, the one thing I've always wanted to know is, was it ever long? Did he ever actually have the long hair? Because I would assume maybe at one point he did, and then much like Kane realized it was a lot to manage and decided to, you know, just get the gimmick hair.
Yeah, but I think Kane never had long hair.
Well, if you
Even
look
in the beginning, it was...
if you look when he unmasked, he had medium hair.
Yeah, he had hair. But even then, his hair is kind of reddish, no?
Is it?
Isn't
As I crack my voice,
Isn't it?
it could be.
Like, Isaac Yankem hair was...
Yeah, but a lot in the
red and
90s, a
curly.
lot of the guys had their hair dyed.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't believe it.
That is so weird, by the way. The whole blonde streaks thing that happened for a while.
Oh, frosting their tips and everything.
Oh,
Jeez.
frosting the tips. Is there a more... Maybe that bled into the early 2000s. I know when the word metrosexual came around,
Yeah.
which is just a weird word because it's a mix of, as you probably know, metropolitan and homosexual. It just makes no sense at all.
Well, the first time I was exposed to that was I was watching Power Rangers. And remember, were you a fan of Power Rangers when you were a kid?
I was not.
Oh my God!
Which is a shock. I was not a fan of the Power Rangers, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or
Beetleborgs.
No.
Oh my God.
I watched Reboot,
Yes. Okay.
Captain Power, which no one remembers, but was great.
Captain Power was great.
Yeah.
What about Captain Planet?
Did I watch Captain Planet? What is Captain Planet?
Holy crap! Okay, there's a video on the internet of Don Cheadle making fun of it.
Yeah.
So you have to see that. But
Okay.
Captain Planet is essentially the kids from Magic School Bus because they all had the exact same archetypes.
Oh, nice.
You had the foreign kid,
Yeah,
you had the
but-
black, you had the blonde, you had the Asian, and you had the redhead.
That was every show in the 90s. Though.
Yeah, it's true. You are right. Where essentially they were all teenagers and they were given these rings.
There's the girly girl and then the boyish girl.
Yeah. They were all given these rings that would summon, power of fire, power of earth, power of wind,
Oh,
power.
no.
And then one was power of heart. The foreign kid was power of heart.
Yeah.
And when they would
Must have
summon.
been ripped off a Japanese show then.
Oh, I'm certain.
Yeah, because Power of Heart is not an American thing.
No. And once they would summon all the rings together, out would come Captain Planet. This dude who kind of looked like Bob when he was stuck in the web.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Kind of ish.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that reference could work for
Oh,
this.
yeah, of course it does.
And essentially, he would fight
Wait,
pollution.
when Enzo was stuck in the web.
No.
Bob
Enzo.
was stuck in the web?
Yeah, remember that's why Enzo and Andrea.
Yeah.
They went first they got stuck in the cube, and then when
Right.
they left the cube and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the web with the pirate guy."
Right.
They found Bob along with a bunch of other web creatures, and and he came out and he had merged with Glitch at one point.
Oh, God. No, then I don't remember.
Oh, you got
Bob
you
from
got to
that.
get on season 3, man.
I know. I definitely know I saw it. I just don't remember.
I rewatched the
well.
entire show 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's something to do.
It's worth it. Season 1 is very difficult,
Yeah, it's more of a kids show then. It sort of evolves, right?
but then they realized they had more of I guess obese teenagers watching it, so they
Yeah.
decided to give real storytelling
Right.
instead.
They had all those kids who grew up but didn't go out the house. They just got fat
Oh.
and kept watching Reboot.
And anyway, so he fights people and villains that are themed to pollution.
Okay.
And Sludge is the thing that'll kill him, like kryptonite to Superman.
Yeah.
And then there was Captain Sludge, his goatee Spock.
Okay.
If that reference makes sense to you.
Kinda. I've never seen Star Trek, but I've seen enough Star Trek parodies. To piece
There
it
you go.
together,
So then there you go. And
mostly
that
from Futurama, but
Bender with the goatee.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. That
what's
I
Bender
should.
with the goatee's name?
I know it. Oh my god. That's why I was sad when Evil Bart didn't have a goatee. You know, the evil twin.
Hugo?
Yeah, Hugo.
Yeah.
When he didn't have a goatee, I was begging.
Look, I made a pigeon rat.
Gooch. So you've loved pro wrestling essentially from the pyro escapades of Kane
Yep.
and the Brood, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that at all. I don't remember were the Broods good guys at that point?
No, it may have been a one-off thing. I guess no one cared back then.
One had to be more evil than the other, and just
Yeah.
here, let me set you on fire. you know?
Right.
I guess JR could have been.
I
evil.
think the thing is, he was just angry about something, and the Brood was just there, because they were in the Ministry of Darkness, probably.
That makes
Right.
total
He's
sense.
probably
then.
feuding with his
Oh wow,
his
that's
brother.
something. So then, you made the reference to somebody asking you, "When did you know you want to become a wrestler?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's always been there. When did you discover that was a tangible thing? Hey, I can go and learn how to do this.
A tangible thing? That's a hard question, because... And that's probably mostly because I'm in Quebec, because if I would have started wrestling in some environment where half the people on the show were like, oh yeah, this is what I do, I'm a pro wrestler, and I'm making a living at this, and it makes sense, then I would have been more like, okay, yeah, I can do this for a living. It would have made more sense, but I kind of just always wrestled, thinking, this is not, this is just a side thing. You know what I mean? Even though, enjoying it more than most other things in life, still knowing, I don't think this is something I can do, until probably, maybe 2 years ago, where I realized, oh, this is really going somewhere.
Really, you think 2 years ago was? Because I used to do this radio show called Main Event Radio.
Yeah.
And I used to read all the sheets because the whole thing on that was the guy in charge was like, just read the news. And so, I would read the news and your name was coming up, even Seidel.
Yeah.
Like your name was coming up at that point even already.
Yeah.
In the sheets. So it took a while for you to realize that this is going somewhere?
Yeah.
Wow.
It did. I always knew I wanted to do it, and I like that. That's always what I wanted, and sort of what I aimed for.
Okay.
But I didn't really think it was a real thing.
Oh wow.
Which, I mean, it's just sad in Quebec because that happens, and like, I know I spoke to some people who were straight out told by their wrestling trainers, who shall go unnamed, but being told like straight when they started, if you're training with us, you're not going to go to WWE or you're not going to make any money wrestling, but you are going to have fun.
No.
Absolutely. First class, that's what they're told.
Shoot for the
their
stars.
trainers. That's what I would tell people.
Be realistic with the
Yes,
people. Be like,
tell them-
listen, it's a uphill battle. You will never have any help.
Oh, yeah. And you got to do certain things that people aren't willing to do, and then, that...
But that
That
is some
holds true.
total BS.
I know. For anything in life. It's ridiculous.
That's like going to kindergarten and your teacher telling you, well, you're not going to make it to CJEP.
I know. Well... No, because everyone goes from the kindergarten to CJEP. Only a select few sort of make it to the WWE, but it'd be like it'd be more like, because I guess wrestling with WWE would probably be the equivalent of having your doctorate in wrestling, just percentage-wise, I guess.
I assume.
So I don't know. It'd be like having your teacher tell you, no, there's no way you'll ever become a doctor in anything. You know what I mean?
Well,
You'll end up in construction. You'll be fine.
I look at that like nowadays in 2016. Maybe not when you started, when you heard those things,
Yeah.
which is just awful.
To be fair though, I was never told these things.
Okay, good.
I just heard from a lot of people who were. I was partially trained by a guy who was quoted as saying that he never told me, but I guess that's irrelevant. But I mean, if one guy told me that guy told him that, like, and I got trained a bunch of people, he must have, you know what I mean? That must have been something that was happening regularly, and I guess that was the mentality. That was the mentality, by the way, for a whole segment of Quebec wrestling back then.
Well, here's something then. Like,
Probably is now too.
I'm gonna throw him under the bus, but because he doesn't listen to it. But I emailed Colt Cabana a couple of weeks ago, and I go,
Okay.
Colt, I'd like to have you on the podcast for that specific subject about breaking out of bubbles.
Yeah.
Because if there's one guy on the indie level, I feel that has been able to, no matter what the situation is, make it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do this. I'm gonna go do that. I've left WWE. I'm gonna make even more money every year going forward, except for that, everybody has that 1 year where they all say, man, that 1 year out of WWE, you make 10 times more than you did there.
Yeah.
That's because every independent fed and Europe, everybody wants you. And then after a year, you haven't been on TV and they're like, oh, who are you again?
Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't really happen anymore, though.
But that's it. No, but that's what I mean. And that's the beautiful part about it is, and I feel in Quebec, it's not, yes, there might be a talent issue, because it's a bubble and you're constantly the same guys over and over and over and over. But I feel that it's a bubble where I don't know if it's a stigma or I don't know. That's why I wanted to talk to somebody outside of Quebec about it specifically. But I feel a lot of guys think it's very difficult to get out. And when I include Quebec, I'm including Ontario.
Yeah.
I'm including Vermont. I'm including New Hampshire. Like, guys are constantly floating there. And then, you have guys like you. You have other guys that just, like, why? Like, go.
Yeah.
And I think some of them, it's part of that mentality of when they're getting trained,
Right.
they're getting told, well, this is this is the circuit, this is the territory, and bonne chance.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that sucks, because, like, if you want to do it, just do it.
It entirely does. Like, I mean, I was a product of a very specific set of circumstances that allowed me to, break out of the bubble. Which, by the way, that bubble is all in people's heads. Like, it's not a real thing. It's just,
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, and I made it out of the bubble, and I was able to see, like, what happens. And this is a talk I've had with Jeremy Profitable, but it's something I've known for a long time. And it's sort of in wrestling, sort of who you are is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if in life all you want is just to make friends and have fun, well, that's sort of what's gonna happen with your wrestling quote unquote career. You know what I mean? You're sort of gonna just go through it and hang out with the boys, do shows. But if like who you are in life, the type of person, no matter what you do, you're gonna always try to be the best at whatever it is, then that's the kind of wrestling career you're gonna have most of the time. So even though there is a bubble and it's made harder, that still happens in New Jersey or wherever, which is like that whole New England scene, which is completely blowing up. Like probably has the most good wrestling federations or promotions rather than anywhere else in America maybe. Like you still have those guys that are only there to go through the motions, you know what I mean? Which you'll have everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's just what happens to that select few. Like there's a bunch of guys in Quebec that were good enough and that had everything, that just, I guess if they would have been told, hey, you sort of need just this little push to go out there and get it, then it probably would have happened for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What happened for me, like the thing I can credit the most, with getting me like out there and wrestling more and having bigger matches and whatever, was C4.
Okay.
Because when I started C4, and even for the first like year and a half or two, I don't remember, where I was at C4, I was like, I was on the fence with wrestling, you know what I mean? Like, of course, it had been something I'd wanted to do, I always wanted to do, but it was going nowhere. Like, I remember during that stay for the past, like, year before I started wrestling in C4, all the matches I had were, like, the matches I like. That's what I was doing, what you were saying earlier. I was wrestling the same people over and over. I was making the whole match myself, and I was, like, not to tune my own horn, but most of the people I was wrestling were, like, new people that I was sort of helping through whatever. And when I got to C4, I got to wrestle people that were, like, better than me, way better than me. Like, my first match I had with Player Uno, where, like, I had all the things and all the spots I was doing, and all he had to do was just go, hey, do this there, and he just, you know what I mean, brought it up so much and brought it out of me. I was like, wow, I can have a match this good if I wrestle a guy this good. And then I got to wrestle Kevin a bunch of times, and you know what I mean? Sort of realize, you know what I mean? Like, even though I was nowhere near his level then, and I probably still am not, because because he's Kevin, and we all know. But just that, wow, you can, and they're not like they're the same people you are, you know what I mean? Which is what you're not told in Quebec. You're told these people are special, you know what I mean? You're told these guys are different, and you're not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But then you realize, oh shit, I am. It's the exact same thing. We're doing the exact same thing. All someone needs to do is tell me, hey, do this, do that much more stuff in your match, and you're like, oh, then you're there.
Yeah.
Which is funny with a lot of people in Quebec I wrestle, which for some reason that's unknown to me. Like, I guess it's the big fish in a small pond kind of thing, where they're, and that happens mostly with the guys who are having the best matches on the show, like usually, like those top guys who I can just like say, hey, instead of doing just this, well then do twice as much, you know what I mean? I don't want to get too specific here, but like, if you have a 10-minute match and you're going to do a 6-minute heat, why not cut that down to a 2-minute heat, and then just like 2 minutes beginning, 2 minutes heat, and then have, I don't want to go too deep into fucking...
No, I know, but I
kayfabe
understand what you
breaking.
mean.
Yeah, just, and then 6 minutes of really cool stuff instead of just 2 minutes of cool, because you're trying to, you know, be okay or do less or whatever. People are wrestling now as if they were on tour 6 days a week. Like some people, which is the worst, because you're not. You're wrestling, like, I guess the average is what? Like, you're wrestling maybe once a weekend, and then you have the occasional 2-weekend show here and there. So why not, like, especially if you have one show a week. When I have one show a week, I'm going to go nuts for that show, and I'm going to be goddamn sore the next day. Nowhere, like, I'm not going to be near a point where I'd be good to go against the next day, but I'm going to have that one great match because I had the opportunity to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of just, like...
Well, it's flexing that creative muscle.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the big fish in a small pond kind of thing. Like, of course, if you compare yourself to everyone else in Quebec, that's where you're going to stay. You could be the best in Quebec. That's great. But why don't you compare yourself to the guys in New Japan or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or... You know what I mean? It's still indie wrestling. Like, don't go comparing yourself to the guys on TV because they're doing TV wrestling. That's different.
Yeah.
Go watch Evolve shows and think, okay, how do I compare to those guys? Because that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, no,
So-
it's true because if you look at any guy, if you look at a ROH TV match
Yeah.
versus the same two guys possibly working Evolve or working just an ROH house show, the matches are completely different.
Completely different.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
A guy you wrestled recently, Sami Callihan.
Right.
Him. The stuff in NXT, even when he had 10, 15 minutes, is nothing
Nothing.
compared to 10 minutes
Oh yeah.
on a non-televised show because you
Right.
don't have to work.
Because
You
he's
only have to work the crowd
He's
and the
not
guy.
part of that big machine anymore that tells him, "Hey, you can't do that because you have to be like." I guess there's still a thing to keeping a certain rhythm on the show where the first match shouldn't be like 30 minutes in the main event, 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, you have the ebb and flow. You have to kind of work together
Kind
in the
of,
night.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like the way I did it is I always just gave it my all. I just never I also never complained about what I had. You know what I mean? If I had 8 minutes, then I'd make the most out of my 8 minutes, and that'd be as much as and then so it would kind of fit in the show because I only had 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sami Callihan, who now like is he is well, he describes himself as bestest in the world because he's better than the guys who are best in the world. But yeah, he's doing absolutely fantastic on the indies and like it's stuff he was just never allowed to do on TV, and he never did because it's a different thing. But now,
But isn't that wonderful when you can look at those sorts of things, and like strictly speaking as a fan, and I'm kind of getting into nerdy fandom right now. Cody Rhodes, he's a guy who, when I was younger, was like, I love this guy. I kind of find it funny. He has a little bit of a lisp, but I always liked him. And then, he got to do the mask gimmick, and then he got to do, before that, dashing Cody Rhodes. And this is a guy who morphed so much to whatever they threw at him or whatever they let him do or whatever depends on who you're asking.
yeah,
And now that he's on the independent scene, I'm excited really for the fact that, hey, the guy's going to be able to do exactly what he wants.
right,
And this is a guy coming from, he watches everything on the network, as if you follow his Twitter, and his dad was Dusty Rhodes.
yeah,
So I'm excited just to see what this guy can do if he can just pull stuff out, tricks out that on WWE they'd be like, oh, sorry, don't do that.
right.
So for Sammy, it's the same thing. I'm like, now, the cuffs are off.
Right. I remember wrestling C.J. Parker, who... You remember C.J. Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you do. Guy with dreadlocks, for those who don't. I wrestled him in his second match outside of the WWE at CZW Best of the Best 2015. And he was like, oh, let me give you a bunch of German suplexes. And I was like, why German suplexes? Because I can't do them, because you're not allowed to do them on TV. Because obviously it's Brock Lesnar thing. So he's just excited to do a bunch of
But doesn't
German
that...
suplexes. It's great. It was great for him, and he was awesome. Like, he did more in my match with him than he ever did on TV. Like, just more stuff, more fun, and like it showed that it was like his mentality was like, oh, I can do whatever I want, so I'm just gonna have fun and roll with it. Which now all the guys who are doing that post WWE are having great and wonderful careers and are coming on, where what you used to do back then and what some people still do now and kind of fail at, which is just, oh, I'm just going to charge a lot for bookings and make my money off of that. But you look at guys like Chris Hero, who is the king of the indies right now, and he's doing fantastic.
Well, what's great is, he went to WWE, got stuck in their system in like the vicious circle, and came out, and I don't remember if there was a lapse, but it felt like almost like just a hop and a skip, and he was right back to what he was doing in the sense that like I'm in control of this.
Yeah.
Why is anybody? No one's gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna have fun there. I'm gonna do this.
Which is the same thing Sami Callihan did, same thing Matt Sydal did.
Yep.
It's this same thing all the smart people do now. I mean, it's I'm so lucky right now that the wrestling landscape is so that you don't have to be in the league to make money. You know what I mean?
What I'm liking is they've woken up a little bit, at least for NXT, and
Yeah.
you've guys got like Johnny Gargano, who he's got that weird contract where, hey, he's on NXT every week.
Yeah.
And yet he's still going to show up here in Quebec for NSPW. He's still going to be in New York. He's still going to be at Evolve. And that for me is epic for, like, I don't know, because I'm not
Yeah.
in his shoes. But if that were me in his position, I'd be like, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
You know, I get the exposure of being on like
Right.
WWE, and then I still get to kind of control where I'm going.
And that's great for WWE too, that they're now allowing that, like, that because it's a thing now. You can't, if you watch a Kevin Owens match on YouTube, you're gonna end up on a Kevin Steen match, and if you end up on a Kevin Steen match, you're gonna end up on a Young Bucks match, and if you watch a Young Bucks match, then you're gonna realize how awesome wrestling is everywhere else, right? So they sort of don't have a choice but to acknowledge that there's good stuff going on anywhere else, so might as well stop pretending it doesn't exist, which was their strategy for a couple of years, which probably didn't work out too well. But it allows for them to have things like Jushin Liger versus Tyler Breeze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is completely awesome. And everyone seemed to understand and know who Liger was and understand how great he is. And that just made for the kind of match that you never, ever would have seen a while back.
And I feel like for me this is the kind of thing where as a fan I get happy because you get those situations.
Right.
It's just a shame that we've had that one, but instead of going like they went for the ultimate Japanese legend,
Right.
who can still go.
Mm-hmm.
But now they Shinsuke,
Right.
Ibushi, they had they took Kenta, like they're essentially just starting to cherry pick, and that for me as a fan, I don't have to, like Wrestle Kingdom. For me, watching those shows is kind of okay. Thankfully, it's once a year. Like their big shows are like once every 3 months, so it's not so bad. I can stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning, or get up earlier, or however you want to place it. But I'm happy because now I get to see those guys every week,
Right.
at a what I call a reasonable time.
Right. And like also having to respect what these guys can do, because you know that people are going to be coming in with certain expectations of Ibushi, and you know what I mean?
Well, if you look at him, did you happen to see him versus Cedric Alexander?
Oh, no, I did not.
No, that's coming up. That's
Yeah.
coming up.
You mean
no,
him versus Sean Maluda?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Sean Maluda, who had a really great super kick.
Yeah.
And everybody was freaking out. I was like, this is great. Well, he's Samoan. If he doesn't have a great super kick, I guess, you're in trouble.
Yep.
But, like, that match alone,
I was disappointed he didn't wrestle barefoot, though.
this is the thing. He and Shinsuke, I feel, are geniuses. And not just for wrestling, but I think their smartness is higher because like look smartness.
Intelligence?
No, I'm going to say smartness.
Okay, good enough.
Tonyism. Smartness. How smart they are because Shinsuke came in and
That's a perfectly cromulent word.
ooh, good one. He came in and with one match had a WWE version of his matches.
Yeah.
No adjustment. Like it didn't look like this guy was trying to calculate or anything. And I'm not taking anything away from like AJ or Kenta, Hideo Itami.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from them, but both of them you could tell took a couple of matches for them to realize, okay, bigger ring, these are actual ropes, bounces more, or whatever, just get reacclimated to their tools.
Yeah.
As opposed to Shinsuke and Ibushi, both of them came in, and Ibushi had a little bit more of an indie style, but that's the cruiser. That's the tournament. I guess they're not being told anything. They're just like, go ahead, no pile drivers or whatever. But Shinsuke versus Sammy could have easily been a Japanese match. Could have easily been a Sami Zayn match from the Indies.
Right.
It could have easily been that, but it wasn't. You had a real great WWE match.
Right.
And that's why I was coming back to my smartness thing is, those guys are just so good that they're able to just here I am, like no problem. And like Sean Maluda, okay, he works the American Indies, so it's a little bit closer. Ibushi, had done a couple of ROH shots.
Right.
Outside of that,
Well, New Japan, I guess. Which, their style now is probably getting closer to WWE. Because the production value's gone up since they're...
well, the production value
on
versus
demand
the
side.
matches. I mean, look at. Imagine if let's just say December rolls around, or even tomorrow, you have Shinsuke versus AJ Styles.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, it's not going to be anything like their match from January.
No. Yeah.
It'll probably be awesome,
Yeah.
but it won't be the knee to the back of the
No,
head.
you're right,
It
you're
won't be, it won't be that, and I'm okay with it personally.
Yeah.
I read some internet some places on the internet where people were like, "Oh yeah, the Kinshasa is so weak." I'm like, it's the same knee. He's just not actually kneeing you in the forehead or the back of the neck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And he's placing it differently. Except for Ho-Lun.
Ho-Lun?
Ho-Lun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you like that end of the match?
Not really.
No, because he gave Shinsuke's finish, and then a German suplex. Which a German suplex as a finish is cool.
To be
I'm
fair,
up for
the
it
knee didn't look nothing like Shinsuke's though. But
because he missed.
yeah, the guy I'm really excited to see is Grand Metalik
Yeah.
or Mascara Dorada in CMLL. He was one of the ones who did some of the coolest springboard stuff, and I wonder how much of that he's actually gonna keep, because the Mexican style, like because it's a very CMLL lucha style he has,
Mm-hmm.
completely different. Because I don't know if you know, AAA sort of has more of an American thing.
No, they
going
do.
on.
Yeah,
They're bringing
yeah.
a lot more foreigners than CMLL, which really has super Mexican wrestling, and he's kind of a product of that. He's one of the best at that, so I'm excited to see how he does.
It's because CMLL has less Americans in it. That's
lot
what
less
that's it.
Americans.
Because AAA, you had Jeff Jarrett not too long
Yeah.
ago.
Oh yeah. They're wild.
And you had Del Rio,
Right.
who wasn't wrestling Mexican style at
No.
all when he went back.
No. But yeah, they're just wild. But yeah, kind of excited to see if what happened with Sin Cara happens with him.
Well,
because I guess Sin Cara's style.
He already beat Sin Cara though, because on his first match he didn't fall on his head.
Yeah. But the problem with Mystico stuff is that it requires a lot of basing. You know what I mean? Like guys helping you and guiding you through the head scissors and stuff and catching you in the rounders, which Mexicans are known for, and no one in the league could do nearly as well as anyone who used to wrestle in Mexico. So I think that's what got him most of the time. But
Well, I can tell you why I think, besides the mistakes and the injuries, what really killed Sin Cara.
was it the dick shirt?
No, the dick shirt would have got him over. I tried so hard to get one of those dick shirts.
That must be
They
kind
canceled
of
my order.
They canceled your order.
Yes, I had made the order because I saw it online and it was still up on the website. And I went and I ordered 3 of them.
Oh man, a good smart thing. It's like those baseball cards where they get the birth date wrong and they go up in value. I'm not talking like I know something about baseball cards. I do not. But yeah,
You spent a little more time in the U.S. than I have for forgetting the baseball card reference.
no, but that shirt must be worth a lot of money now.
It
on
has to
eBay.
be. It has to be. I'm gonna check that out. But no, they canceled my order.
That's crazy.
Like they're like due to and they were like due to an obscene I forget what it was, a really well lawyer style letter written.
Okay.
And they're like, sorry, we're canceling your order. You have been we have not charged your credit card. And I was like, damn it! It's gonna get me one of those.
On their part, that makes perfect sense. Although it's incredibly disappointing.
It is, but what I think that happened is the American crowds, and that's why Rey Mysterio got over, and that's why they're still trying to get their Rey Mysterio, is the mask covered A, his eyes, and B, his mouth. So
Yeah.
how could you tell what that guy's feeling? And then they tried with Kalisto.
Yeah.
And Kalisto in his entrance, he still has his mouth covered.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to watching Lucha Libre. So I'm used to seeing some of the most extravagant masks where there's nothing there, and you get all of the emotion through body language,
Right.
through moves, through trying to get I'm used to it. You're probably used to it.
Yeah.
Hardcore wrestling fans who watch lucha are used to it, but the little kid who watches only WWE and is in love with Rey Mysterio is in love with Rey Mysterio's huge eyes, his mouth. Rey was able to get a lot over just with his face, and they'd zoom in on his face, and that's where I go, how, if I'm booking this, I don't give a guy a mask with all of his features covered. So when I saw, what they did for Grand Metalik, I'm like, okay, they've learned.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
the
that
eye
is
holes are
probably
wider, the mouth is wider. you can see frustration, you can see joy, you can see anger, you can see all of this. And that's where I think he'll do better. And it has nothing to do with his talent. It'll have to do with emotion.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's when you boil down wrestling to me, like psychology-wise, it's all emotion. You're telling a story of emotion.
Yeah. Right.
So if you can't translate that, if I kick you in the face as hard as possible, and you turn around and there's no emotion on your face, we're reacted like, oh shit, you're super strong. Like that did nothing to you. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
But if I kick you in the face 8, 9, 10, 20 times and you never react, then the next match and the next match, well then you're just boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
You're just, and I'm kicking, I kick you in the crotch, and you're not gonna give me the the lemon face.
Yeah.
There's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean that's the base of it. Yeah, but yeah.
You know.
Although they do make it work, like Mexican wrestling as a whole is a completely different thing.
But as I mentioned, that's the
Completely different,
difference. Is we're trained to that. They're trained to that.
Right. It's 100. Well, CMLL at least is 100% based on stunts. It just there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
But can you talk a little bit about your time in Mexico in that case? When you were there, was there a large adjustment period for you? Did you feel comfortable after a certain time? Did you feel comfortable?
I did, because most of the guys I worked with, well, everyone's really easy to work with. Like, they weren't expecting me to do any of the real specific Mexican lucha stuff that I hadn't learned yet, so we're just going through, like, basically my regular spots and just incorporating them in the Mexican format of the match. But like all those things, like the headlocks being on the other side and arm twists and everything, I didn't really have to do any of it. I mean, I learned all of it in practice and it was great. I learned all the details of the basing. I learned the arm dags and the head scissors and all the proper way of doing all these things. But it really, like, it wasn't an adjustment period. Like, AAA also is Americanized enough that they're used to having foreigners coming in and, you know what I mean, just taking their spots, which was like, my stuff looked different because that's what I did, you know what I mean? Like, just selling more and taking more time between my stuff to, you know what I mean, pump the crowd up. And it, like, there was no, and my style is already different enough. Like, I do very little pro wrestling as it is, and it's mostly just kicks and flips and stuff. So there really wasn't any kind of drama. Like, it was very easy to adjust.
Barefoot kicks make the best sounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It sounded like a big foot chop. But
Speaking of kicks.
Yeah.
Naomi.
Right.
How was that?
That was great. Good for her. I may have been mad if I hadn't like acknowledged it on Twitter.
Yeah, because let's put it out there for anybody who didn't see. Your rapid fire kicks to the sides of the arms, and then Naomi must have seen that somewhere.
Yeah. And
then decided to do it, and she did it. For a person who probably never did it before, she probably did it all right.
She did a great job.
But it was nice that she did acknowledge it. Like that was cool when I saw that.
Yeah, she on Twitter said like I think someone said, "Oh, I see you've been watching your Speedball belly tapes," and she said like, I don't remember. "Oh, you know it" or something. And which is fine, but I mean, that's why like that's a smart thing I've done with wrestling is that everything I do, I think I do it well, and I don't think I have like any move or anything I do that just anyone else can do. Like, because I have been practicing kicks my whole life, basically. Like I just that roundhouse kicks an hour a day for 13 years now. So I mean, if my kicks aren't good, then I've wasted my life. And if someone can just come along and start doing all my kicks and do them better than me, then I might as well just retire.
Oh, well, good thing she didn't. That was gonna tell you what you got to do is you got to get light up shoes or kick pads that light up because you shouldn't be wearing shoes.
I thought about light up kick pads. That's just cool.
But that would be cool.
Although, just there would have to be some like electronic parts inside, and it probably wouldn't last very long.
Well, no. What we can do is get those glow sticks that you just crack. You crack to open them before your match. Crack, and we just I don't know.
But then I'm gonna have to start traveling with glow sticks and buying them. I wouldn't even know where to buy a glow stick, aside from maybe the dollar store.
guess. I haven't had to buy glow sticks since my rave days. And I never had rave days.
So hopefully they're yet to come, maybe after your first divorce. Which
I'd reserve it for the third
divorce?
midlife
That
crisis
sounds- okay.
divorce. Like we're talking
Wow,
about.
so you're planning to get 3 marriages in before you're 50?
I gotta beat Rick.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a
He-
lot of divorces. Who's Rick?
Flair.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. I was trying to understand, like I was trying to get what I was missing, but yeah, Flair.
Not a Trailer Park Boys reference. So
No.
they're going for Flair.
How many divorces did Flair have?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I
You just know
just
it's a lot.
I know it's a lot. Somebody had made what was I talking? I was talking to somebody, and somebody had made a reference like a Ric Flair payoff.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Comic-Con. One of the guys I had on the show a few weeks ago at this point. He was telling me how Ric Flair charges $70 for an autograph.
Wow.
And I'm one of those guys. I like the Nick Bockwinkel or the Albert Einstein. I'm gonna charge you $1 and I'm gonna give it to charity sort of thing because it's
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
this of my time.
Mm-hmm.
So and one of the Power Rangers charges like $40. I was like, fuck you, man, no way, because I'm not an autograph getter. And anyways, so told me it was like $70 to get Ric Flair's autograph. And I'm like, well, it makes sense because he's got so many ex-wives. I mean, all the alimony is like
Yeah.
catching up. Like $2 of it must go in his pocket.
Wow. Is that how that works, though? Does the alimony just add up? Because I feel like at some point, like, is it in percentage of your income? Like, does the next wife get alimony based on your income minus the first wife's alimony?
Wow. Luckily enough, we've never been divorced.
No.
Neither of
thank
us.
God.
But that's a lot. Think about that. If you've had more than one ex-wife, and then let's say you've had kids with them, the alimony plus the child support.
Well, kids, yeah, that has to go like
Well,
per kid.
I heard Rick though, his ex-wives. There was talk of getting them a show on the WWE network,
Yeah.
one of the non-wrestling shows. So
Okay.
the ex-wives of Ric Flair.
That sounds absolutely terrible. But see, why not just have more cruiserweight classic instead
That's-
of that? Like just why don't you just put Evolve on the network instead of
Well, my thing is
Ric Flair's ex-wives?
what would be great for me is move the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic.
Yeah.
And have it its own hour every week after
Yeah.
NXT as well. You're right. Just give me more of those and less
Yeah.
swerved.
Less Total Divas. Less just less filler.
Yeah, but that's what all those shows
I
are.
don't have the network. How often do they air Raw in a week?
I don't watch the network enough to know.
Okay.
My network gets turned on Wednesday nights and pay-per-view nights.
Okay.
Except for if somebody tells me, "Oh, they have this or they have that." Like
Right.
when they added all the Raws from 1997,
Yeah.
I went back and I watched the 6 weeks leading into SummerSlam, no,
Mhm.
not SummerSlam, Survivor Series 97,
Mhm.
just so I could hear the Sunny Days reference, just so I could hear, I go back and I watch Shawn Michaels promo when
Yeah,
he loses his
that's
smile.
something I've done. I watch a lot of Nitros from 1998
Yeah.
on YouTube.
I've gotten to loving the 2000 Nitros, just of how bad they are.
Really?
I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, let's see Buff Bagwell. let's go see Buff Bagwell, and I'm there and I'm jazzed.
Chronic squashing people every show.
Yeah.
Was
Or-
that during that time?
Yeah,
2000s? Oh yeah.
And
Chronic.
what was his name? Glacier. Glacier 96, 97. He has his kick, which was different every week, but had the same name.
Now, what was Glacier? I've only seen the clip of him falling in his entrance. Did he have actual matches aside from that?
Are you thinking about Shockmaster?
Shockmaster. Oh yes. How could I mix up Glacier and Shockmaster?
Yeah, no. Glacier had matches. Glacier, well, if you could call them matches, Glacier had the jumping high kick, the roundhouse kick.
Glacier. I don't know who Glacier is.
Oh, you will have some fun
No
tonight.
idea.
You gotta YouTube him, but Shockmaster, I don't know. I only know that one promo, and then WWE making fun of it 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
they made an action figure of it, eh?
Nice.
And in the action figure is upside down in its packaging,
Okay.
like he was.
This is
Like the guy was,
wow.
and unfortunately, I think like I got a good look at it because it was supposed to come out at like New York Comic Con in February. The helmet isn't a stormtrooper helmet. Which
Yeah,
made me
right.
It isn't, and it made me.
copyright issues.
It made me so sad. Think about that. There are people who own Shockmaster action figures, and I'm not one of them.
Wow, that and you're missing out on that and your Sin Cara Dick shirt.
Well, the Dick shirt I tried.
Yeah,
I
That would have been a
tried.
great combo.
Oh, so many of those fails.
It's so sad. It's so sad. They've been going on for so long. This is the question I like to ask everyone when we're doing wrestling philosophy. How much longer? Forever is also a possible answer. But do you think the WWE is going to be like the main thing for wrestling? Like clearly the most important, the most important way to get wrestling.
I'm gonna say forever. However, it's gonna change, and it's gonna change big time. I don't know who the smart person is right now that's allowing this Cruiserweight Classic to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly feel the WWE Network will have a great change
Yeah.
in the next, I'm going to say 10 years because I'm going to push it back as far as I can,
Okay.
and you will have Evolve on there.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to turn into what, UFC, they have their own version called Fight Pass.
Right. Where they have Invicta. And,
Exactly.
What is it? FS? No. What's it called? The World Series of Fighting.
Yeah.
ONE FC.
Exactly. So they have a couple of promotions that they signed to.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it be beneficial for everybody if, let's just say, Evolve goes, well, listen, we'll give you one show a month.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, well, we're going to put you on the Friday night because Sunday night is WWE night. I'm like, okay, no problem. Well, I can guarantee you right now, at least for me, and I do consider myself a little bit more of a obscure fan,
Yeah.
but I know enough people that would turn around and be like, well, I'm going to get the subscription to the network now.
Yeah.
I know enough people that at the end of the day, if, the return would be better, because I don't believe there are people who watch the network specifically for Swerved. I don't.
No.
I
Or Total Divas.
Well, no, I believe there are.
Perverts?
My sister.
Oh, your sister's a pervert?
Yes, she's a huge pervert.
Wow.
Yes, for Colt Cabana, it's kind of disgusting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She has and Colt has acknowledged this to her.
Oh, well done, Cole.
Yeah.
He's single, guys.
I wouldn't mind because Colt does well in life, so take my sister away.
Okay.
But she has this whiteboard where she has goals before she turns 30, and one of them is at least meet Colt Cabana.
Okay. At least meet is better than.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at least meet is, I'm pretty sure, girl speak for rape, kidnap, and keep in our basement.
Rape, kidnap. Okay. Yeah.
I think that's girl speak, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. So like I'm saying, is they're Total Divas. I'm gonna throw Sassy Steffi under the bus.
Yeah.
She's a Total Divas fan.
Okay.
So
she's first and foremost a wrestling fan, though.
Exactly,
Like,
but the
okay,
thing is,
but the
what-
reason your sister, would she watch Total Divas if you didn't have the network already?
actually, I don't live at home,
Oh, you don't know.
so they have the network.
Oh, I'm bad for assuming that, but yeah.
No. But but it's okay. No, it's totally valid. It wasn't that long ago that I bought my place.
Oh, bought.
I
Congratulations.
thank you.
Look at
I'm an
Hollywood Tony
adult.
over here.
I know. Look at me. I moved out for a while, and then I moved back home. So I want to buy a house, but it's expensive saving
Yeah.
up and paying rent. My parents are Italian enough to be like, "Come back."
Yeah.
And now, when I moved out, my sister specifically moved a TV and a couch into my old room.
Yeah.
And when I moved out the first time, it was just a junk room. Like there was a never used workout bike, just boxes of shit.
Yeah.
Now it's a boudoir. Exactly. So there's no way I'm able to go back now. The mortgage is holding me as well. But my sister, she's the kind of fan where she watches Monday Night Raw only because of Total Divas. She used to be a wrestling fan and then fell out many, many, many years ago.
Okay.
But she got back into it when, she's a Kardashian fan. So I do believe I won't watch it. I won't because I have brain cells.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody. No, yeah, offense. But my sister, she she watches wrestling because of it, and so I can't fault it. But at the end of the day, Total Divas is not a network exclusive show. I mean, it's on E, so it plays against WWE pay-per-views sometimes. You know? So I sit there and I'm like, I'm okay with that only because it gets eyes on the product. But Swerve, you have to subscribe to the network to get it.
Yeah.
Like no one does.
Okay.
I've yet to meet a human being go, oh man, they announced Swerved and I was all up in that shit. You know? Like, I understand somebody getting it because of the Monday Night War show.
Yeah.
But that won't be a guy. That'll be a guy like our ages, maybe a year or two younger, will be the limit.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it's going to be either the most hardcore, diehard fan who's like a historian, who's a Pat LaPrade.
Yeah.
A 18-year-old Pat LaPrade would get the network for that show.
Yeah.
But if you and I were younger, I don't think I would be enticed to get. No, maybe I would because I am that guy, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I would do it for Evolve. I do it for, PWG, which would never happen. Evolve long before PWG, but
right. Yeah, oh yeah. But now here's the CM Punk argument with that, which is what he was saying in his Colt Cabana podcast after he quit the WWE, which was, like, if they're willing to pay me that much, then they must be making that much more money off of my back.
Yeah.
Then why wouldn't I want to make that money myself, right? So, I mean, a lot of those companies that would be on the network, won't they at some point go, well, we'd like to be bigger than the network on our own, right? And I mean...
But that's when you sign contracts, like a TV show. Okay, I'm going to, business-wise, because now we're talking business.
Yeah.
I'll sign Evolve, because we're using Evolve as the example here.
Right.
I'll sign Evolve for 2 years.
Right.
And for 2 years, which isn't that long, that's 24 engagements. Let's say once a month you're going to give me a show.
Yeah.
That's 24 engagements. If at the end of those 2 years you don't feel I'm paying you enough, we renegotiate,
But
or
see,
you go on your way.
But that's what I think would happen. Like, maybe some promotions would go through there, but there's some that will never. Like, I don't think New Japan would ever be on the
well,
WWE
but
network.
they have their own thing.
Exactly, they have their own thing. And how many more things are gonna have their own thing? Like Lucha Underground is its completely different thing.
All Japan just started their own streaming service.
Oh wow!
But they only have, I think, beginnings, like 75 to 2000.
Awesome. Perfect. The
So yeah,
best.
but before it went
The
downhill.
best.
And but here's the thing, though. To go to your question, is WWE going to be the be all end all? I think yes, regardless, because even when the business was at its shits in 2004, 2005, they were still head and shoulders above everybody. So unless somebody with we don't need to say a TV time slot anymore because of the internet.
Yeah.
But unless somebody can come around and put a $1 million a night budget on a weekly or semi-weekly show, it's never going to happen. Because look at ROH. ROH, I put as number 2 above TNA right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In everything.
Wait. So you put TNA as number 3?
No. TNA is a lot lower. You're welcome, Terry. You have ROH that has fairly decent production value.
Yeah.
Of more than decent. Like I enjoy watching it. I don't feel anything. I don't feel there's missing anything really, other than maybe just the size of crowd. But there's always that weird gap between a 2,000 seat arena, a 12,000 seat arena, and a 20,000 seat arena. Like the gap in price to get that arena is very large, and I understand it. And if anything that ROH and NXT have shown us is you can fit 200 people or 500 people into a small arena and make it look huge, and which I feel that they accomplish every time, as opposed to going into a 20,000 seat arena and selling 700 tickets and having everybody be in the first 5 rows on the cam side and then having to sell weirdly. Like, I don't know if you saw Slammiversary, but it was bad.
I do not know
Slammiversary.
No, I haven't watched TNA in forever, except for the final deletion.
Which how did you? Let me ask you, how did you like that?
I've talked to a lot of people about the final deletion, and here is my thing, right? everyone goes, "Oh, it's great. They tried something different. They, they're two wrestlers who've been around for a while, reinventing themselves," and I think that's all well and good. But the reason I absolutely hated it is because the concept is fun, and this way of filming wrestling I'm a huge fan of, and I think there should be more of, and it's great. But as I was watching the whole thing, I told myself, wow, with the exact same circumstances, I felt I could have done way better. There's just so much like detail and stuff that is just like badly made, sloppily made. Like it's so obvious that the whole thing started off as, hey, let's make something completely epic and great and grandiose, and then they filmed that first segment, and then it was laughed at and belittled, and they realized, okay, well this is horseshit. Let's just make it campy and funny and act like we're in on the joke for the rest of the bit, which failed miserably. So like if you just dissect the whole thing like up close and not just look at what they were trying to do, but look at how they actually did it, it was bad and sloppy.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree. For me, it was a mixture of psychology
Yeah.
and like the production value of it. I'm always okay with saying your production value sucks, but what you make of it. Are you going to spend 10 cents on this or 10 cents on that? That's where the important part is. And when I watched it and I first spoke about it, like it felt very, and I hate to throw them, but like backyardy, because it wasn't a backyard.
Yeah.
But the very first move in the match, I can't remember if it was the superplex or the twist of fate.
Yeah.
Right away. And for me, it's just those sorts of things. I'm like, okay, so you've hit the finish. What are you going to do? And then the finish was, just bad. And but the one thing out of all of it is and I feel slightly hypocritical for saying it, because I'm of the mentality of wrestling is you make what you want of it.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. If you want to have I don't understand them, but I understand why it can work. The empty arena match, or this in a backyard without a crowd. But if you're gonna do it, like, try and base it in reality at the very least.
Yeah.
So a hologram where, Jeff Hardy appears, like, that's where and like it feels weird because, like I say, like, you make what you want of it. But for me, if it doesn't work for the live crowd, if somebody standing 10 feet away from it can't see it, then there's no point. Which is why I was okay, I think, 2 years ago in the Hell in a Cell, they had that weird hologram of Bray Wyatt get angry at Dean Ambrose. Okay. And everybody freaked out about it. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is the live crowd could see it because it was a camera, it was a projector pointing onto Steam. So I'm like, someone in the crowd was able to see that, as opposed to here, now if somebody was in Jeff Hardy's house, they'd just see a floating drone and somebody in the background doing, the Shockmaster voice, like, Brother Nero! That for me, like, bothered me. I'm like, no, make it realistic. Have a walkie-talkie sitting on, and like for me, if they would just had a walkie-talkie sitting on the drone, I would have been like, okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm. I looked at it more from a wrestling point of view, and even then, like, I think, like, I'm not saying I know better than them, but I think they went about it wrong. Like the first thing that got me as I was watching it is how much you could hear the ring bouncing up and down when they were just exchanging punches.
And it broke.
Which is like, because wrestling has a lot of things people do because, like, the only reason they do it is because it's in front of a loud crowd, and it gets, like, a bigger reaction when you're in front of a loud crowd, a live crowd, sorry, and you're doing it. But if you were filming a fight scene in any other platform, you wouldn't have a reason to do it. Like, just stomping your feet on a punch, right? Both, like, with the big old school 90s punch where you stomp down with both feet, which no one, like, I don't think wrestlers should do it now because it looks so silly and people get that you're stomping the floor. But you wouldn't do it anywhere else. Like, if you were filming any other kind of fight scene, you wouldn't do this, and it's the kind of things that take away from a wrestling match. Things like Irish whips, which are made so that back in the old school wrestling days, when you didn't see your opponent until you got out there, or you didn't speak the same language, you could sort of, talk as you're doing it. Like, especially if you're in that kind of environment and you can do as many takes as you want, and you don't have to You know what I mean? Talk about it. Well, don't do these things. Cut out the bouncy ring noise and the exchange of wrestling punches, and like it didn't have to be pro wrestling.
Well, that's it. Well,
as much as it was.
that's the other one. It was Jeff hits a twist of fate on Matt, and they did the old, no bump, but stand up and kind of hop onto a ladder or hop onto the table.
Yeah.
They did that spot, and like that's where I agree with you 100%. I'm like, what? Why? Where did that go?
Yeah.
And here's the other part. Here's the thing that truly bothered me, and I call this the WCW. They did this for ratings. On a business standpoint, they don't make money. They don't make much money from Pop TV. It's really like a quid pro quo. It's 50-50. They don't get money from them for putting on the show. There's no there's no rights fee.
Mm-hmm.
So they split the fees of the ads. Why didn't they put this on pay-per-view? Because they did it so well that there was no spoilers that made it out.
Yeah.
No spoilers made it out, which is great. But why didn't they put this on pay-per-view? This is Hogan versus, and it's an exaggeration what I'm showing you, Hogan versus Goldberg on Nitro. Like, great. You just popped, you just got a bunch of people who would have been willing to see this, who would have been willing to pay you, however it was back in the 90s, $29.99 to see these two people go at it. This is your biggest feud of the past 2 years.
Yeah.
People are talking about WWE is parodying you, and you're going to give it away for free on a network that you occasionally have problems getting on air with. Like, why would you do that? Like, I would have put that 1 week earlier or 2 weeks earlier on Slammiversary. I would have been like, well, why not just air it there? No one knows. It would have been perfect.
I'm sure they had a great reason. That probably didn't work, but I'm sure they. Well, not a reason. I'm sorry. I'm sure they had a logic preventing them from doing so. But that's sad because TNA has a lot of great wrestlers on the contract
Well,
that are having good matches that just go unnoticed because there's so much. Like they are not doing what they're not doing anything that the WWE is doing right nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, it's they're not even doing what ROH is doing right nowadays.
Yeah.
Which is, let's just put on a wrestling show.
Right. But that's always been Ring of Honor's thing, though. That's the gimmick, is that they're supposed to.
Yeah, but
not
TNA in 2005, 2006, 2007, they're like, this is where the great wrestling is.
Right.
That was a thing they were saying. Yeah, I think they said they had some sort of gimmick that was very close to that. And Kurt Angle, the Kurt Angle would close out the commercial going like, it's real, it's damn real, So I'm like, yeah, this was a company that was known for fantastic matches and, basic storylines. Like, very basic, I hate you, let's fight.
Yeah. Right. Which is, and that's, I feel, by the way, back to Quebec wrestling. Like, I feel that's a mistake people make a lot, which is just assuming the storylines work as if they were on TV.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
But that's another thing that I'm not even going to limit it to Quebec. I'm going to limit it to a lot of indie wrestling because we're in 2016. Every 16-year-old, far smarter than I am with a computer, can upload to YouTube and edit together something very simple.
Yeah.
So what is stopping you from putting your storylines out on the internet with it? Be like, tell your people, like, when you're on YouTube, when you're on Facebook and you're advertising your thing, remember Bloodstream, IWS?
IWS, yeah.
They did that before anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew every storyline. Everything. Like, you got your storylines over there, and you had the matches on the shows. Show a little clip of the match, show whatever, go on and so forth. And then you have an actual flowing story that goes on for months and years.
Well, here's the thing, though. Back when Bloodstream was coming out, IWS Bloodstream, there weren't so many distractions on the internet. And right now, it's so hard to get someone to watch a YouTube video for more than a minute.
Well, here's the
You know
thing.
what I mean? See, so I think that's what pro wrestling is, and that's the good thing about it, is that it's a fun, easy to put together, always interactive, live show.
Yeah.
Right? It's a live experience most of the time. And that's what it's meant for. I think wrestling, like, no matter how good wrestling can be on TV or good a match can be on the internet, it never compares to what it was live.
No, never.
Never, ever. And that's wrestling's biggest strength, and that's what's not, I don't think, is being focused on enough. Is that really, like, a certain promotion can have the greatest set, the greatest production value ever. If the wrestling is in there, they won't succeed, because that's at the end what it is. It's people go to watch a wrestling show more than anything else, more than storylines, more than production, more than a screen. They want good wrestling.
Yeah. Which is why I always feel like a lot of places try to book for a story as opposed to a book for a match.
Yeah. Which is, yeah.
You know, I think it was it Cornette or Graham? One of the two. I remember seeing an interview going like, listen, the way I set stuff up is I think 2 months down the line, what match do I want to see? All right, that's my match. How do I get there?
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, this is going to, you know, guy A is going to punch guy B. Yeah, there's an alarm.
Yeah, it's very annoying. Hope you hear it.
Maybe it's coming across, but I doubt it. I don't see it in the levels. You know, guy A is going to punch guy B because of X, Y, and Z, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Right.
Are we going to have 4? Are we going to have 5? Are we going to have 8 matches? You know, as opposed to being like, no. I want to see, you know, and I'm not. I don't want a fantasy book, but you know, I want to see Frank versus Tom in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get there? Are we going to have 2 matches to get there? You know, is this a rubber match, or is this just building up to the, you know, only encounter?
Right.
So that's the way I see it. Is I feel a lot of people forget that you should sometimes look at the final chapter, and then work your way to it. That's the way I see it.
Yes, but even then, and right now, I hate that I feel like I'm sounding like I know everything and I know the correct way to do pro wrestling, which there isn't.
But you're doing things that
Yeah.
appeal to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of it, and I kind of have an idea what works and what doesn't. But like, I've seen more of it than most, I guess. But even 2 months for I'm going back to Quebec wrestling now. Even 2 months for Quebec wrestling
Is a lot.
is a long time, right? Because you don't know who's gonna be back for your show. You don't know like how many people have seen the last show. It's probably very little. It's probably like, and like your storylines, they better be very simple because no one's gonna remember, or like have very few of them. Or if you want to make storylines for the diehard fans, that'll go for every show for 2 months, assuming your shows are once every 2 weeks or whatever. Like, they better be very easy to follow, and they can be like storylines don't have to be so and so steals the other guy's girl and then runs into his match and then hits him with a thing. No, it can just be this guy beat this guy. So now, you know what I mean? And
I got to beat you.
just matches. Just matches. They work most of the time, but they don't have to drag on for 2 months, especially not if you don't know you're going to have the same fans. Like, what's great about Battle War, and what I love wrestling about Battle War so much, is that every time I wrestle there, probably half the crowd is all new faces.
Yeah, there's often a lot of new faces.
It gets bigger every time, and like I know a bunch of people in the crowd have never seen wrestling. I know it's their first time, and like it's the perfect mix of half of them have never seen it, and half of them are diehard fans, which start the chants and know the whole dynamic and
yeah, that know who Giant Tiger.
Right.
You know, not that Giant. You know, who know who Giant Tiger is in the sense that what the character's doing.
Right.
You know,
they know the whole ritual.
Karn.
They know what's happening.
Yeah.
Karn. Yes, the great Karn. Everyone remembers Karn, right?
Nobody can forget Karn.
No.
It's a big chin under that mask.
So where was I going with this? Yeah. So like, you don't know. You can't like expect people to go there simply because of storylines, because it's not. And I think that's what happens most of the time. Like, there's very little promotions in Quebec that have the same fans every time, and especially like they're if they're the real pro wrestling fans, because the again, we're back to that whole CRW 75 who show up to every show. They'll show up to every show. They're there. They love it. It's great. Thank God they're there because they keep it afloat. But it's those new faces, it's those new people that they're where the money's at. They're they're the people you want to come back. You know what I mean? So you have to focus on them more than focus on the people who are going to be there already.
Hence
So-
why Swerved is a horrible idea.
Exactly. It all goes back to why Swerved is terrible.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we got to wrap it up soon because I think my recorder's going to die in a couple of minutes.
Okay, perfect.
And so I just got to ask you a quick question. Now you're heading. Somebody told me you're heading off to Japan soon.
I am. I'm going to be working for DDT during most of August.
Nice. Well, this is coming out like at the beginning of August, so that'll be perfect for
Perfect. Yeah, I'll probably be in Japan already.
it. Amazing.
Yeah. Hopefully I get to wrestle Danshoku Dino, who is the guy who does a lot of penis jokes. Not because I like that kind of stuff, but just because I think the match will be fun.
Are you looking forward to your feud with the Blow Up Doll?
Oh God, I would love to wrestle the Blow Up Doll. I doubt though, in the limited amount of time I'm wrestling there, they're gonna have me wrestle the Blow Up Doll for one match. But I would love it. I've thought of a million things to do in my head. Not that I've gotten any practice doing wrestling moves with a Blow Up Doll.
Can we start a hashtag Bailey versus Blow Up Doll?
I think its name is Yoshihiko.
Yeah, no, but we have to keep it a little
Yeah.
simple, a little more
Yeah.
simple for us. But I'm so down for it, and I'm very excited that they're going off to Japan.
Thank you. I'm very excited too. I've wanted to for a long time, so I'm very glad it's happening.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast. Download again next week for more awesome pro wrestling talk only on rowdywrestling.net.